Welcome back. I'm Mike Walter. According to the Inter-American Development Bank, 350 homicides occur in Latin America each day. But there are glimmers of hope in what is considered to be the most violent region of the world. Some Latin American republics are reinventing themselves and significantly reducing their crime rates. Joining us now to talk about these turnaround nations is Dr. Cynthia Arnson. She's director of the Latin American program at the Wilson Center here in Washington, D.C. Dr. Arnson, thank you for coming in. Welcome.
Thank you.
Let me ask you about the overall crime rate. How would you describe it?
Well, I think in your opening remarks, you said it quite correctly. The region is among the most violent in the entire world, but there are huge variations. There are countries like Nicaragua or Costa Rica or Uruguay that have very low levels of crime and violence. Mostly, I think, considered the most important statistic involves homicides. But there are countries that are truly the most violent regions in the world outside of active shooting wars in Afghanistan or elsewhere, and that's the Northern Triangle of Central America, the three countries, El Salvador, Honduras, and Guatemala. And there's one city in Honduras, San Pedro Sula, which does have the highest homicide rate in the world. And these are not statistics to be proud of.
Let's focus a little bit on the three that you touched on that are doing well. Why is that? What are they doing?
Well, there's a lot of different reasons, and I'm not sure that you can point to any one specific thing. A lot has to do with a historical pattern. In a country like Uruguay, for example, it's always been since the beginning of the 20th century, certainly, an inclusionary state, a government that has had strong institutions, and that has also had a strong sense that the government and the state should be involved in an important way in providing social services. So there's always been a sense of Uruguayan exceptionalism, if you will. In a country like Nicaragua, which has poverty rates that are similar to other countries in Central America that have high levels of crime and violence, there are a number of very unique factors. I mean, during the years of the Sandinista Revolution, there was a sense of a police force that was very involved in the community, very close to the community, involved in social projects. So there was a much more integral sense, not just in providing for law enforcement and for prison terms, but for providing prevention programs and social inclusion programs. Now, again, a lot of that, has changed, and it's certainly not a characterization that holds, today when there's an ever greater politicization of the police in Nicaragua. But there's a wide variety, of experiences, and it's also important to remember that that levels of crime are, for the most part, underreported, and some of the crime that people most fear is not homicide, but rather property crime, is going into the street and having a cell phone stolen. That does a lot to create a perception, of insecurity.
I know that Chile has done well. Are there hopeful lessons in some of these countries that are doing well that can really transit from one country to another?
Sure. Well, one of the things, there are a number of things that have gone well in Chile, but among them is a strong process of depoliticization of the police, of professionalization of the police, but also the insertion of the police in a much wider strategy that includes situational prevention, overall crime prevention, social inclusion, and then, once people get out of prison, a process of rehabilitation and reincorporation into the community. So I think the examples that are the most positive and the places that really are to emulate are the ones that have succeeded in having a much more global vision, where there is a cadre of expertise both inside and outside the government, in civil society and academia, that really are knowledgeable about these themes.
Dr. Arnson, thanks so much for coming in. Certainly appreciate it.
Thank you for the invitation.